All right, I'm gonna keep this one short and simple. Many of the problems we have in a relationship are directly connected to our greatest fears. So maybe if you have a fear of abandonment, you're gonna tend to be a little bit clingy, jealous, controlling, etc. in the relationship. Maybe you have a fear of being controlled. You can do whatever it takes to be financially independent from your partner. You're probably not gonna depend on them for a whole lot. You're probably gonna have a plan B just in case this doesn't work out. So in this video, I'm gonna talk about why the number one core fear of husbands and number one core fear of wives actually exasperate one another oftentimes in a relationship, causing more conflict, and how we can correct that so that we can decrease conflict in our relationships. That's today on Relationshots. Hey, welcome to Relationshots. My name is Eric Wooten. If this is your first time hanging out with us, welcome to the place to get practical relationship advice that actually works in your relationship. If you've not already done so, go ahead and click the subscribe button and the bell notification so you don't miss upcoming videos. If you want a free guide to intimacy, you'll see a link in the description area below. If you're looking for content and community to strengthen your relationship, check out our Altered Marriage membership. If you're liking these videos, you'll find more in-depth videos, longer length, with worksheets that you and your spouse can work through and practically apply some of the content that we're talking about and get connected to other couples in the Facebook group and our live monthly Zooms. You want to consider checking that out. All right. So before we jump in today, I want to give you a quick little biology lessons. No, I'm not a biology expert. I'm not a scientist, any of that stuff. But here's the reality. When we see or hear information, it is directly sent to the emotional part of our brain first, because that's the part of our brain that is going to assess if this is a threat. And if it is a threat, it's going to try to protect us. And that's the whole fight, flight, or freeze response that you've heard about. Now, hopefully, after it gets there, it can then transfer to the rational part of our brain so that we can make a rational decision, not simply a survival emotional decision. Now you can imagine when we have some core fears that get exposed in interactions with our spouse, what may happen is we perceive whatever they're doing as a threat to our greatest fear, which is going to cause us to want to protect, which means we are responding emotionally and for protection's sake, not rationally, and that's why we have problems in our relationships. So let's get practical. The number one core fear of husbands is failure. The number one core fear of wives is disconnection. So if they get into an interaction where either of their core fears are exposed, they're going to go emotional, they're going to go protection mode, they're going to get defensive, and it's usually going to cause a problem. So you can imagine a husband and wife start having a conversation to interact. Now the wife is interacting to connect, and what she may not know is that the husband feels a pressure in that conversation to be exactly what she needs or wants in the moment, which is going to make him, if he can't figure it out, worry about being a failure. And if you can imagine, probably not you, but maybe some wives, add a few criticisms in there about him, which makes him feel more like a failure, which is then going to cause him to withdraw because he doesn't want to feel like a failure, his core fear. When he withdraws, guess what? The wife feels disconnected. Her greatest fear is disconnection. So criticism increases and it keeps going. Can I get a witness? If you're human, you've had those interactions in your relationship. Now, the problem we have relationally is if we are not aware of this, it makes it hard to recognize and break these patterns because we're actually groomed and wired to do these things and to have these back and forth. Think about men. Men are groomed growing up to not express emotions, not be emotional. Crying means you're a baby or a sissy. And so they're not knowing how to really be emotional in interaction. On top of that, men are wired to listen in order to fix a problem, not to listen and connect just for conversation's sake. Women, on the other hand, are wired to have conversation in order to connect. So when they start having a conversation with one another, the wife is saying, look, we're connecting, and the husband's saying, let me find a problem to fix. That can be frustrating, and it's probably happened in your relationship before, right? Where the wife's like, quit trying to fix stuff. I just want you to listen and understand me. To which the husband's thinking, I really don't know how to just listen and understand without looking for a problem. And since I can't find the problem I need to fix, now I feel like a failure, which makes me want to withdraw, which causes you to criticize and come after me. And we keep going. You get the point, right? So what do we do about this? First, you got to be aware of, listen, I don't want to expose my spouse's greatest fear. Men, you don't want to expose or disconnect from your wife, withdraw from them, because that will expose their greatest fear. And women, you don't want to cause your husbands to feel like failures, because that's their greatest fear, which will cause them to withdraw. So let me give you some practical do's and don'ts for husbands and do's and don'ts for wives. So husbands, you first, some do's and don'ts for you. And the idea behind this is you want to eliminate behaviors that are causing your wife to feel disconnected. And you want to implement behaviors that will cause her to feel connected to you. So here are the husband's do's and don'ts. Don't invalidate feelings, withdraw, ignore, or try to solve everything. Do actively listen without solving, affirm feelings, be present, and intentionally pursue. Now, wives, you want to remember, you don't want to highlight areas of failure often for your husband. Now, I know sometimes we have to address things, that's fine, but you want to be careful that you're not highlighting the failures, the shortcomings, them missing the mark. So whether that's at work, whether that's as a father, whether that's as a husband, whether that's in the boardroom or in the bedroom or financially, you don't want to continue to highlight the fact that they're failing in areas and tell them they're not good at it and they fall short, because that's going to cause them to be fearful about that failure and want to disconnect from you. So wives, here are the wives' do's and don'ts. Don't criticize, highlight failures, tell them, quote, they never, and then fill in the blank. Do affirm, celebrate them, appreciate them, because they want to feel like they're succeeding. Now, every couple is different. So the things that feel like criticism and failure to one man may not feel like a failure to another man. Same thing with wives. The things that make some wives feel disconnected and connected may be different from what other wives feel disconnected and connected. So you've got to have a conversation with your spouse to know, what are the things, husbands, that make you most feel like a failure that I do or say to you? Husbands, you want to know, wives, what are the things that I do that make you either feel connected to me or disconnected from me? And you want to highlight eliminating and implementing the things that are going to cause more connection and more appreciation and less highlighting of their failures. So hopefully that's helpful to you, but we all have fears. These are the number one core fears of husbands and wives. We have a number of other fears that when highlighted and exposed are going to cause problems in a relationship too. So I wouldn't stop just on these two. Have a conversation about other fears your spouse may have and how you can eliminate exposing those things. Love to hear your comments in the comment section below, whether you've noticed this in your relationship and what you do about them. Again, if you need a place for content and community, check out our Altered Family membership. You'll not be disappointed. We'd love to help you get where you're trying to go in your relationship. You'll see the links in the description area below. If this video was helpful, consider sharing it with a friend. And until next time, I'll see you right back here on Relation Shots.